John Bruni is still here, and Professor Plimer has arrived. Gentlemen, now with these two superior...
It's only creditors that call me a gentleman.
Well, superior intellects. Superior intellects all. A friend of mine, Albert Ben Simon, gave me this. He asked at a lunch that I was at around the table if anyone knew what a snollygoster was.
Well, I know Albert well. I was invited to the same lunch, but I was in Melbourne for medical treatment, so I had to tell the host I couldn't make it. Albert is full of these wonderful bits of trivia. I have absolutely no idea whatsoever.
A snollygoster, SNOLLYGOSTER.
Sounds like a fairly sugary piece of confectionery.
But it's a great word, isn't it? A snolly. Yes. You're a snollygoster. And the person wouldn't really know whether to be insulted or charmed. Well, I've got Albert's definition is a clever, unprincipled person, especially a politician, who is driven by personal gain rather than by consistent, respectable principles.
Well, it's something you could use on the floor of Parliament, and the Speaker wouldn't pull you up because they wouldn't know what it meant.
That's the point. I love it. Tony says, Dr. Google here, it's a shrewd, unprincipled person, particularly a politician. It is a 19th century American political slang term used to describe somebody driven by personal gain rather than honourable morals, ethics, and consistent principles. Snollygoster. So I guess somebody made it up as a word. Great word. I'm going to keep that. We're going to keep that, and we're going to use it. Did you see, Professor? Did you happen to see Gina Rinehart presenting the orange?
Yes, with the model of the caterpillar. Yes, I saw that.
It was big and orange, and really looked like it meant business.
Yeah. Well, Gina's come to use a bit more theatre.
Yes,
and is much more public in her political comments than she was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And she, like many people, have just had a gutful. And so she's out there in public.
Well, Gina Rinehart, Gina Rinehart is a very, very powerful person. But the number of people who in high places are actively, publicly supporting One Nation is really interesting.
Previously, if you announced that you were a supporter, you were pilloried.
Yes.
But now enough people have come out, and such people like Gina Rinehart, and people are getting brave and saying, well, okay, I've always had that view. I voted that way. Now I'm coming out in public.
Yeah. So it's not so much what she says, because she hasn't changed her line for 30 years. It is simply that people did not want to be set upon and bullied and tormented by others who don't get the story, don't get the picture.
Well, she's also filling a gap in politics, a gap certainly left by Labor and the Greens, but a gap left by the Liberals because they're divided. And a divided party will never, ever win. And we have a group of the moderates in the Liberals who are in the wrong party. They should be in Labor. And the Liberal Party has been going downhill ever since the knifing of Tony Abbott.
Yes.
And unless they get rid of their moderates, they will never be in power again on their own. And the second thing is that the Liberal Party in the past was regarded as the party of the elite, but now they've become so snobbish they don't want to even deal with someone like Pauline Hanson.
Yes,
and that is to their demise, that she is a serious person in the political world. You have to treat her seriously, whether you agree or not. It doesn't matter. But you have to treat her seriously, and you have to talk to her, because there is a common enemy, and it's the Labor-Green alliance.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that even in the highest office, she would be the same. She would not change.
I think the National Press Club address was interesting, because I think all the lefties in Canberra were waiting for her to trip up.
Yes.
Now, she was reading a prepared text, which was in effect repetition of everything she'd said before.
Yes.
She didn't read it too well. She stumbled here and there, and so she's showing that she's human. She's not as polished as people who've got their talking points. I thought her whole situation changed as soon as Get Up's wonderfully successful own goal appeared on the screen behind her. And in question time, she showed that she's got some ticker.
Yes.
And when she took on The Guardian, I think a lot of people cheered. When she took on the SBS girl, a lot of people cheered. And she's absolutely right. If you want to watch a television program in Polish, you call it up on the web. You don't need to watch SBS. Those people who are great supporters of the game, the world game soccer, would be disappointed that if SBS goes. However, someone else will buy the rights.
Yeah.
So she did. One at a time she dispatched him, and it wasn't. She didn't know what questions were coming. I thought the question that Michael de Percy asked was the best question, and that was, what is she going to do about the bureaucrats, the structured bureaucracy, and how can she deal with that?
Yes.
And obviously the answer is that you start chipping away and getting rid of the Quangos and the Human Rights Commission and all these sort of organisations, and you can probably save the country about $200 billion. Well, that is 20% of the debt we have. Now, her view is to get rid of debt. The current Labor government view is, well, who cares? We'll just borrow more money. And it's an eye-watering large amount of interest that we're paying on this. That's $60 billion a year that we're paying on interest. Now, we could waste that on 1.5 snowy 2.0s. I think she has, the bubble is not going to burst. I think she's become a significant political force. I think she will have to talk to other conservative groups, and that includes Family First and others, and there will have to be a deal done with preferences.
Yes, well, she's alluded to the fact that she's quite open to that idea. A loose arrangement of like-minded people.
She's not looking for a coalition.
No.
She's looking for this loose arrangement with guarantees on supply, etc. Yeah. But unless they do something, then we are going to see some of the better members of the coalition lose their seats. And the one I'm thinking of is Matt Canavan. Yeah. He's number 2 on the list. McGrath was he's a backroom moderate who's jockeying for positions all the time. He's number 1 on the ticket. This number 2 could well go to One Nation. It is Queensland after all, and I think to lose a talent like Matt Canavan would be tragic for the conservative side of politics.
But isn't it incredibly important that she has people who have got experience beside her? Because she's going to need a minister for defence, a minister for this, a minister for that, and I don't know that she has at this time access to people with that kind of talent.
Well, we had the same situation with the Labor government in 1972. They'd been 23 years out of power.
Yep.
They had no one who had been a minister.
And it was a shambles.
It was a shambles, but they had the same problem. It's a problem that all parties face, is getting experienced good candidates. I think she's got enough time to get them. I'm certainly constantly being contacted by people who are putting up their hand to be candidates.
Yes, that's good.
There are some fairly good and interesting people who want to be state and federal candidates.
Yes.
Now, the vetting process is the most important one, because in the past there have been some duds in One Nation, but there are duds in all parties. Just look at all the union hacks who have got themselves into federal parliament. But this is where I think the weakness lies. Who is going to run defence? Who is going to be the minister if she's in power? Yeah. I don't think she'll win it outright, so she'll probably have to rely on someone in the Liberal National Party coalition to provide a defence minister, and there are people there who could do that. However, what I do know is that she is taking a lot of advice. She's not using the executives of the party, because she doesn't have any, as you have in the Libs, where the executives actually control the party, and most state and federal executive councils are controlled by the Wets. She doesn't have that. So she is actually actively talking to people. I know she's been talking to people in the gas industry because there were some objections to her policies on it. I noticed that the National Press Club should change their view a little bit on gas. And I know that she'd been talking to people, the major gas producers. So she is taking advice, and when she says she listens, it's actually true because I've seen that happening.
Yeah.
And in one of the companies I'm a director of, where we produce 15% of Eastern Australia's gas, coal seam gas, she's actually a couple of times sought out the CEO for opinions.
Yes.
Now, Labor has never done that. The Nats have never done that. The Libs have never done that.
And they're trying to say things, disparaging things about her taking advice from Gina Rinehart. It's far better to take advice from a clever, successful woman than it is Karl Marx, I would have thought.
Well, yes, very much so. And the second thing is there's a group of people out there who have built things, and Mrs. Rinehart started with massive debt left by her father, and she built Australia's largest private company. Yeah. Out of that, of course, she's become very wealthy, and that is absolutely fantastic because if you're wealthy, you spend the money, and that creates jobs. Now, on one hand, we've got a Labor government at present that is trying to penalise those people who've got out of bed early, who've actually had some savings, who've invested in maybe a second house to finance their retirement, and to shift that money to people who may be in need, but it might be due to their own laziness or the fact that they haven't sought to actually chase a job. If you can't get a job in Melbourne, then go to Kalgoorlie. Now, I had that once with a former student of mine. He had finished up his honours degree at the University of Melbourne, and he said, what do I do? It's a slump in the market. I can't get a job. I said, hitchhike to Kalgoorlie, go to the front bar of the Palace Hotel, drink there and talk to people. And you'll get a job working as a field hand or a drilling assistant or whatever, which is really good training. And when the slump finishes, you'll be first in line. Yes. And he took that advice and he did it. And I've often thought of him. And a couple of years ago, I was at a function in Perth and he came up to me. I didn't recognise him from Adam. And he said, look, I just wanted to thank you for the advice you gave me. He's CEO of a mining company. So
God bless him.
Yeah, well, this is what people have to do. If there's no job in Melbourne or Sydney, get on your bike.
Yes.
There are jobs in rural areas. There are people who actually don't want to work, and there are plenty of jobs for people who do want to work.
Yeah. We've got to find someone who understands reward and incentive. These things have been stripped from our horizon over time.
Well, the reward is for the government, and that's called bracket creep. As soon as you start to inch your way ahead, you get into another tax bracket and you lose a lot of what you've earned. And so for many people, it makes it very difficult for them to get ahead. The second thing is we used to have a zone allowance for people working in rural and remote areas. I remember I was on Zone B for quite a while, and that made it worthwhile for you to actually live in rural Australia and work.
Reward and incentive, not fear and force. Caroline came running in this morning saying, you're not going to believe this, you're not going to believe this. Gina Rinehart, no, not Gina, Pauline Hanson has been taking advice from Kyle Sandilands. Have you heard that?
I read that in today's Australian, and I had to take a deep breath and think, well, in terms of media and promotion,
you would know if that was true.
Well, I don't know if it's true. I read it in today's Australian. However,
Ian is a great fan of Kyle Sandilands, by the way.
Well, I'm trying to hint that I'm not, and I'm trying to hint that there are far better people around that could do this. And I know that she has been listening to other people. The brains behind Pauline Hanson, the strategy, is done by James Ashby. Fire the liar. I mean, that was a line that came out of Peter Credlin's mouth, but James Ashby picked it up. The next day it was running, and it gained One Nation more than $4 million. Now, he is a master political strategist. He did stand for the seat of, up near Rockhampton. He stood for a state seat. He may well stand for a federal seat, and the LNP seat of Michelle Landry, I think, is the one that's the most likely one because it's near where he lives and it's not well held. The next seat of Flynn, that's held by Colin Boyce. And Colin's been talking off and on about moving into One Nation, and I've had quite a bit to do with him when he was cementing his views on climate, and he approached me. So he's in a cattle and mining area. He could sit either with the Nats or with One Nation.
Have you heard anything about the fact that as this Fire the Liar, this Fire the Liar business gathers momentum, maybe even bumper stickers, I don't know, but it's a wonderful election slogan. Have you heard anything about the fact that Albo will stand down probably within the next month or two?
No, I haven't, and I don't think he could. His ego, and he's a small person who's been in the back room for years. He's a hatchet man. He's a hatchet in terms of internal party politics. He's got to the top job by being a hatchet man. His ego is incommensurate with his achievements, and I don't think he would ever consider it. You've only got to look at his counterpart in the UK. I mean, the Prime Minister in the UK should be dead and buried, but he's still hanging on. Yes.
Yeah. For the good of the nation, I would think.
Apparently, yes.
He's a political zombie, our Keir. He's a political zombie.
Yes.
He's waiting for the axe to fall on him, I think.
Yeah.
We're living in really interesting times, President. I think
all over the world.
With President Trump, with conservatives in Argentina, Hungary, Italy. And if you look at the Italian Prime Minister,
she's good.
She started her campaign saying, look, I'm a mother, I work, I'm a Christian, and she got mocked for that.
Oh, you would?
Vote took off. But and that's the same with Pauline Hanson.
Look, I will say, and I'm honestly, I don't know whether we can go that far, but of all the people from the so-called populist right internationally that has really impressed me, is Giorgia Meloni. I do not understand how she could. She came in on a populist right ticket, and when she got into power, she became so pragmatic, and in a way that normal conservatives would actually go, yeah, I get it, and so I get very excited because this is the first time in my lifetime that I've seen Italian politics go in a way that I actually quite appreciate and enjoy.
Well, Italy, of course, is a man's country, and so for her to do that is a major achievement.
Oh, it is. It is.
I think we've also seen it with Margaret Thatcher. I think we're currently seeing it with Nigel Farage. He is rocking the establishment, and so I think across the world, we're getting quite a lot of populist politics on the right start to appear. Now, that gets criticised because, it's populism. What? How the hell do you actually get a majority to win a seat unless it's a popular?
Gentlemen, let me just say, I mean, what strikes me as odd is that I thought in my friend group, and I've got a lot of people who would be on the left of centre, I would imagine, and when we sit down and we talk about populism and right-wing conservatism and where it's all going, when the name Meloni comes up, everyone, including my left-wing colleagues, say, wow, she's just amazing. I wish we had a candidate on the left like Giorgia Meloni. So, I mean, I suppose it really depends on how you position yourself to make good on becoming something like her. Now, I interviewed a dear friend of mine a couple of weeks back, and of course, it was just as John Healey resigned from Keir Starmer's mob as Defence Secretary. And, when we were having this discussion, he did say that Farage, what people don't get about Farage, and I'd like Ian's take on this, is that Farage portrays himself to be a right-wing populist, but in actual fact, his values are very conservative. He's just a conservative guy dressed up to be a lot bigger than he actually is. And he didn't mean that in a critical way. He actually meant that in a very positive way. So I'm wondering what Ian thinks about Farage if he does take over at some point. Will he be something different from Meloni, or will he represent a UK version of that? Because, if you can then get into power and then pragmatically rule your country, that's good. Because that way you win friends and influence people across the board, and you've got a very good likelihood of being able to build the coalitions necessary to stay in for a long time and affect structural change.
Well,
but if you're a flash in the pan, if you're a populist flash in the pan, you go in there, you throw your dice in and go, well, I'm going to do this, do that. I mean, you become then a Whitlam, if you will, because again, the one thing that we didn't end with is that Whitlam failed catastrophically. I mean, it wasn't just he failed catastrophically. He was turfed out by the Governor-General. Yeah. I mean, that was a political scandal of the first order. Yeah. I would, and for all the things that we were saying before, he came in with, from a lengthy period of time where he didn't have, the experience and the skill base necessary to administer. He didn't get the right people in his cabinet and all that kind of stuff. So we have to be careful where we see how the resistance, the right-wing resistance goes, I think, because otherwise you're pretty dead set on being able to repeat some of the left-wing catastrophes as a consequence if you don't get...
just a couple of comments. Whitlam didn't control policy. It was the 36 faceless men.
Yeah, yeah.
And he then had to put that policy into action, and he was representing the unions, the same as our current Prime Minister, and the unions... If we talk about gas, I'll come back to that. But the unions are actually driving the Labor Party policy. Pauline Hanson demonstrated that she doesn't have that much policy yet, and she's cementing it through conservative eyes. Now, Nigel Farage was exactly the same. I first met him in 1981. We used to sell metal to him that we mined at Broken Hill, put through our Port Pirie smelter, and he was a metals trader in the city. He has had commercial experience. He's actually been buying and selling using his own money, and he is very much a true conservative. I introduced him to Mrs. Rinehart on the 6th of December 2025 at Claridge's. Now, for him to get from the footpath into the table we're having lunch at took him half an hour. The number of people that mobbed him. Yep. So not only is he populist, he knows which buttons to push, and he's a true conservative. I think Pauline Hanson now is growing a lot. That growth is going to depend upon who she talks to and the advice, but she is a true conservative also. She's not tied to the unions, unlike the Libs and the Nats, who have a federal executive who control policy. She's not tied to them. And so we might actually, if she can pull it off, she might be in a position where she can control policy in some sort of alliance with the Libs and the Nats. Yep. I see the Libs and the Nats continue to go down in their vote. The Nats, I think, have to be very careful they don't face extinction. In some blue ribbon seats they will win, but their numbers will certainly go down. And I think the Libs are facing the same. The Libs,
but even with Tony Abbott in charge, I mean,
he's got to deal with his executive, who are dominantly wets, and he's very much aware of that. And the second thing is he's got to deal with the parliamentary parties, who are dominantly wet. So even though he is a true conservative and his heart's in the right place, he's dealing with people who are in the wrong party. And why is it that Turnbull is still a member of the Liberal Party? Why hasn't he been chucked out? So we have and poor Tony here does have a very difficult job to sort out the Liberal Party, but at present they stand for nothing.
But wasn't he the guy who put Pauline Hanson in jail?
Yes. And I mean, Tony's a good God-fearing Christian, but it's Pauline who's forgiven him. It's the irony.
That's not very Christian of him.
Well, no, look, politics is the game, and the allegation was that she'd broken the electoral law, and he pursued that to get rid of a rival. And also there was a bit of a spite in it because she was formerly in the Liberal Party and they had to kick her out. So if anyone threatens a Liberal Party member, all they need to say is, well, why is Malcolm Turnbull still a member? And you could make a wonderful song and dance in public about the fact that Turnbull is still a member, yet people who are conservatives are being threatened with expulsion. So I think we've got a lot more shaking out to do. I don't think Labor would dare call an early election. I think Albo is fairly dim-witted, and I think he's waiting till all the fuss goes away. Yep. The problem is that the momentum will build. And now that Pauline Hanson is being savagely attacked, I think it shows that she's a real force. For example, you had that dopey Channel 9 journalist in Western Australia claim that there was something wrong with her jet. Now, the plane that Mrs. Rinehart gave to Pauline Hanson is not a jet. So the basic facts the journalists don't even get right. All they want to do is attack her.
Yeah, but also spread misinformation.
Of course.
Because
that's
the
quite
thing
normal.
is that as soon as you actually put it out there, it's hard then for people to sit back who've heard it to think, oh, well, she's got a jet, because it becomes
it'll be
a
front
meme there.
page and the apology will be page 11, yes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
one column inch.
Yeah.
And that's the way it works.
Yeah.
And so I think there are huge challenges ahead. I don't know what the Labor government's going to do. They've had to backpedal on their budget. They'll even have to backpedal some more. I think that we have probably the weakest government we've had in my voting life. I think Treasurer Jim Chalmers is as bad or worse than Jim Cairns. I think the Prime Minister is worse than Gough Whitlam, and he doesn't have anyone on the benches to support him. When you look at Katie Gallagher, you wouldn't give her a job as a librarian. I mean, she is just hopeless. And you look at our senator here in South Australia, she is an absolute embarrassment. To have that woman on the international stage, I think, shows what a trivial view we take of our international friends.
But it's interesting. I made another observation the other day while I was listening to ABC News Radio. And that
Shame on you.
Yeah, well, but sometimes you come up with these little nuggets as you listen to the opposition, right? And, one of them was when you hear people who are against someone like Pauline Hanson try to defend the system, they're often, they defend the system like a third or fourth rate bureaucrat would defend a system. There's no love in it. There's no passion in it. They don't give a toss whether or
not at all.
People can survive, or make the next payment on the mortgage. They have absolutely a disconnected view of everything. They are disconnected. They're part of a so-called governing elite, and they speak as though, and I had the observation that if these people could communicate the defence of the system that is so thoroughly buggered in a way that would resonate with Australians, perhaps people like Pauline Hanson wouldn't be.
Well, this is why I argue we should put Treasure in say, Gladstone, Department of Finance in Port Hedland. That's where we generate our wealth. Aboriginal Affairs in Port Hedland. That'll give them a touch of reality. Department of Ageing, in an ageing society like Broken Hill. Department of Resources, say in Mount Isa, Department of Water, you put them at Wilcannia, and once every 10 years you might see a bit of a flood, maybe every 15 years. Get these people to actually understand reality. But we now have people who are fourth-generation Canberrians who have no idea about how the average person has to struggle, the sacrifices they have to make, and the average person out there cannot afford to have a second car, cannot afford to go to Bali for a holiday, cannot afford to drink wine. They're pushing it every time they go to Woolies or Coles or Aldi or whatever supermarket they go to. They're pushing it to stay afloat. And it's a weekly stress.
Hang on, gentlemen. Dr. Kevin Donnelly's going to join us in a couple of seconds. He's written a book. You guys might have something interesting to talk to him about.
Well, I've met Kevin a number of times, so I wouldn't mind saying hello before I disappear.
His name, the name of the book is Wake Up to Woke. So we've got something in print that we can hold above our heads and say this is what everybody should be reading. We'll come back and do that in a minute. Now, our sponsors are Rossdale Homes. Whether you are building your first, your second, or maybe your third, or you're a seasoned property developer, it doesn't make any difference. You all want the same thing. You don't want any scary costs being chucked at you at the last moment. Rossdale Homes, they have a slogan which they've had for, maybe 30, 40 years. Trust is a must. They give you a guaranteed fixed price. a fixed price guarantee. Only you can change the price. So if trust is a must in your world, and it is in most of our worlds, peace of mind, trust is a must. You can only change the price, nobody else. rossdalehomes.com.au. Check it out.